Chess speaks for itself.
Chess spoke for itself.
I mean, really, need we say more? Has there ever been a better time to get yourself a Chess Speaks for Itself t-shirt? Check out the link down in the below. Merch shop bang open, supports the channel, than right now, because Mr. Hans Niemann just played an Immortal Queen Sacrifice. He even said it would end up in his top 60 games of all time. It's the greatest of the year. Let's check it out. With the white pieces is Aravind Chichambaram, another one of these strong Indian youngsters, but he's playing the Niemannator. It's Tata steel, classical chess, the Wimbledon of chess they call it. It was played just today on the 20th of January. Check this out. Now really, Aravind goes wrong on move 4. You've got a castle here. Keep your coach proud. Get it to safety on move 4. Lovely stuff. But he plays the explosive c4. And he waltzes his way into a worse position straight out the opening here. This has all been seen before. And Hans Niemann now backs up with the pony. Why would you do that? Looks super weird. Well, you stop white from playing d4. 1, 2, 3 pieces on that square, and only 2 white pieces supporting the break. Sometimes in these structures you see the knight on b6, but here it's better on c7. That's the big idea. And after e5, you're not getting d4 now in a month of Sundays. What to say? It's Niemann that's erected the BBC. Big black centre. Niemann stands better out of the opening already. We see pawn a3. You could have started with d3. When we see how the game goes, do you really want to be weakening this square? Let's crack on, because what this a3 move does do is support a quick b4, and it's why Niemann plays the subtle, mysterious rook move. Rook b8. Now I had to do some clicking here to understand this one. It's all connected with this pawn break. What would have happened if bishop e7 immediately without rook b8? Well then here white can play pawn b4, and the line goes takes, takes, bishop takes, and then the thunderbolt from the white player. This didn't happen, analysis mode, but we got to explain this weird move. Knight takes on e5. Knight takes, of course. You're thinking, what the heck's going on? Well, queen a4 check is the point. You're about to win the bishop, so knight blocks, but then you go takes, check, pawn takes, and if that bishop had started on e7, if the rook was still on e8, a8, sorry, you can now take the bishop. There is no rook takes on b4. This is the entire point of rook b8. It stops b4. I mean, if you wanted to know the level these guys are at, there's a quick taster. So we get pawn d3 simply. Now bishop e7. This is the reason for this move order quirk. Now we see this knight hop back to d2. Very standard fare. Open the bishop, head for c4. Bishop d7. Looking a bit weird. This is surely the natural square, but who are we to question the almighty powerful Lord Hans Niemann, one day to become the future world chess champion and GOAT of all time chess and overlord ruler? Not me, not anyone. The nay stack is formed on the c file. You don't see that every day. 4 of them in a row there. Now we see f6. Very stinky. Opening the king. Why would he do this? Surely not to displease Lord Hans Feingold. That's easily done. He's a very disgruntled guy. There must be something else, and we see now. It's to support the centre here. f4 lashes out. Far from forced, but it has been seen before. Niemann responds with pawn b5. The knight stumbling back, and somehow these white pieces are getting really clumsy. Now we see castles. And now, fighting for this square, surely a must. Black still stands better. Or you could take another way to go here. But what you shouldn't do is play pawn f5. You just kill your pawn breaks, kill your position, kill your piece play. It's really bad. Knight d4 now from Niemann. and white strategically struggling, because you can play g4. It is aggressive, but somehow you can't quite make that attack work. This one's always looking at e2. Let's watch what happens when the queen tries to spin around. This is a beautiful prophylactic move, preparing this. Incredible understanding from hands. Now bishop e8, there it goes, snaking its way around. Knight e4 now, instead of going for the d5 square. Bishop f7 and bishop c3. And Aravin's somehow just thrashing here, like a helpless victim in Jaws or something, right? Niemann's the shark, coming to eat. Maybe he could have already tried the immediate queen e1, but this is the game. And before you can say, show me your best moves, there's Hans Niemann rocking it after a couple drinks. He loves to boogie. He gains space over there. Pawn recaptures. Surely, if you're going to play bishop c3, you now chop this monster stallion, but you can't do that. The follow-up is, of course, queen takes. I mean, pawn takes looks tasty too, but this is a bit of an eternal pin. Queen d2 to cover, but knight d5, king f2 or rook f3. But then you can start doing stuff like this. You're in a horrible, horrible, eternal bind. The pieces are flowing in. Don't be doing that. So this is why the bishop retreats. But you're losing so much time. Bishop b3 hits away the queen. She now slides to e1. You can't quite make knight c2 work. This one does cover. So we get knight c to b5. And why can't you win a pawn? Well, you can kind of see the themes, right? Sticking the queen on the line of the rook. Not good, and you left the protection of this pawn. Check. And if king f2, thinking yes, let's pick this one up, well, you can simply back up this bishop and no time to take, or else knight d4 check and your queen's getting fossilized. What to do? So no bishop takes on b4 here. We saw rook c1, not the best, but it was tried. Now we see bishop g8, making room for knight b3. Another really just lovely, underrated move, by the way. Now rook d1. I mean, it's just awful, horrible, thrashing chess. Anticipating knight b3. It comes on the board soon anyway. Niemann gets the passed pawns running, and here they come, like Space Invaders. Pawnageddon, another one of the stunning shirts you can pick up in the merch shop if you fancy something this January. Now we see king h1. And it does prepare upon a4 to go bishop takes on b4. Because this time you're not taking here with check. The lines are subtly different. Still black's better, but it's playable. Don't play that one unless you're pushing 300 elo. Even then I feel like it wouldn't be played. In the game we saw knight b3. And it's nice conversion here. Because after knight c4, Niemann takes off the dark squared bishop, securing his grip on these dark squares, and then hopping in just a moment with the superfluous knight that was kind of fighting for the same outpost. First he clamps, now queen g3, finally getting the attack going. a4, g5, let's go. But the big problem after pawn a3 is it's so tough to actually make this work. You know, I was having a look. What if you just throw the kitchen sink at the opponent? This didn't happen. Just ignore everything happening over here and go for the jugular. Let's say like this, really trying to rip it open. Takes. These are the top lines here. Mate is threatened, but black's just always got enough. Always got options to actually cover. You can't quite bring enough white pieces into the attack. Bishop f3, you drop a pawn. Let's say this then I was having a look at. But knight c2, you're about to queen. Let's say you go for a mate. You know, check. Pawn takes after rook takes and you're mating. But then queen f8. Black holds on. White can try some tricks, but black's always fine. And soon the queen side wins it. So you just can't quite arrange it. e3 was played, but it's just not the right direction. Takes on the board. Not the best of defensive moves, but who cares about the all-powerful engine? This still holds the fort. The centre does collapse here, but Niemann, he's in fantastic shape. We saw it when he was throwing shapes. And he whispers, do you even rook cliff, bro? May as well show that t-shirt, go for the hat trick. There's a whole load of stuff going on in the store. The mushrooms is on the way soon. Bishop takes on a3 played. Sorry, b takes on a3. Pawn takes, knight takes, and the b pawn's still running. This one blockades. Queen e8. Now that's kind of tough to explain. I guess it's going for some defensive prophylaxis. Maybe eyeing the e-file in combination with bishop f6. Maybe spraying in this direction one day, but I guess it's more connected on the queen side here, king side rather. In the game we saw pawn d4 and Niemann takes advantage of the weakness of the last move. Knight c4 hits 2 weakened points. This rook drops back. Obviously if knight takes, bishop takes, game goes on. Pawn b2, is it an overextension? Because the rook now lifts, attacks that pawn, threatens to take here, and then munch it. But this is where Niemann plays just a beautiful maneuver, seeing the themes, the tactics, 22 minutes on the clock, and he plays queen c8. Now, if the knight takes, then there's queen takes, and you can't win the pawn, because of tactics. You're losing either your rook or your bishop. Taking the bishop is in fact even the strongest way to go here. Black's a minor piece ahead. So let's run back here. No knight takes here. Rook c2. And this is the big question. White's just pinned this knight to the queen. So now what are you doing? Now how are you fighting back? Well, you guessed it. We're about to see the greatest queen sacrifice of 2026. A Hans Niemann Immortal. You saw it here first. Can you find the epic move? Of course, it's knight takes on e5. The audience is going nuts. Even Magnus can't help himself but give a little applause. Niemann is sacrificing his queen for immortality. And after rook takes, let's take stock of what's going on, right? There's a knight hanging twice, 2 different ways. But however you take it, you're losing because this rook slams down. Check, of course. You're checkmated if you couldn't block with the bishop or take with the rook. But rook takes no good. You make a queen, bishop blocks, and then you take here. And very soon you're taking and still making a queen. Knight d2 just doesn't cut it. Same issues if you take with the pawn. So you can't touch the knight. You have to deal with this threat. What if you try knight d2, covering the square? Still you can check. Something like this. The knight holds everything. Now what's the follow-up? Different good moves. Bishop d5 check you could start with. But knight c4 is one, trying to distract the knight. Queen c7, tricky. Hitting stuff. Then there's bishop d6. Let's just show one quick line. Queen given up. Knight can recapture. You win a pawn. But eventually black emerges a minor piece ahead. And this one, I think, is also dropping off. Don't think you can quite defend it. So you're even going to end up 2 pieces down. This one covers the back rank. I don't know. Just one of many complicated lines. So knight d2 not working. Taking the knight not working. Queen e1 not working. There's then knight d3. Hitting e1, c1. So, in the game, we see the fighting move. Knight c5. And it is the best defense. Because you can take, which Niemann does. But it blocks the c-file for just a moment. A little bit of breathing room. Still no good to take, by the way. The bishop moves. The same problems on the way. So we saw bishop e4. This was one of the points of moving the knight. You vacated the square. King has some luft. b1 is covered. Now this knight moves into c4. Different good moves. This is the one selected. And takes was now played. No time for knight d2. This rook is hanging. So rook takes. Queen f2 covers the d2 square. Knight d6. Beautiful, stunning kind of web-like maneuvering of the pieces. Hits the loose bishop. Threatens rook c1 check. So bishop c2 now. Covers the file, of course. We also see why the queen's on the second rank. But now, check. I mean, this bishop has got to be the MVP, right? The way it's bounced back and forth, hits the king now, king g1, and it supports knight e4. You know, again, if bishop takes, I guess rook c1's coming immediately, yes, and everything loses. You know, if king steps up, takes with check, rook's dropping, if rook takes, pawn takes, it just doesn't work. So you can't take. We saw this move instead, stepping away from the knight's attack. If the queen had gone to g2, trying to stay with this bishop, will still knight c3. Still the queen would be hit on g2. Here Niemann goes to Forktown a different way. Queen moves to d3, and we see why the queen didn't go to g2, because now after takes, there's a tricky little randomizer. I do love how Aravind has fought on here. He plays the move f6, of course, opening the battery, threatening mate. There's only one winning move here, but actually it just occurred to me, why is this other move not also winning for black? I want to check it. What if pawn g6, queen d4, or f7, king g7, queen d4 check, king takes f7, queen takes c5, suddenly white's winning. So there are ways to go wrong. Wrong. There's ways for me to speak wrong. I'm struggling tonight, a bit tired. G6 is actually losing. So Niemann plays the correct move. Rook takes on c2. And after this queen takes on d5, I was about to say c2, doesn't take on c2, we've now got some more tricks to deal with. First and foremost, a checkmate. So we see takes here, giving the king some luft, but now the big question. After check, king g7, is there a perpetual check here? Now you can't go taking here. Knight d2, pawns going through. So we see the check. This is the big hope now for white. Keep checking the king. Check. If you go back to g6, more checks from e8. So Niemann has to make the brave and bold choice to step up the board here. Another check, this time using the support of the pawn, and only one of these moves wins, the other walks into a perpetual check. Which is which? This is the winning move. If you'd have stepped to f5, there's actually perpetual check if white finds the right checks. This was played, queen d1 check, you could block with the rook here, black is winning, but Niemann takes the pawn, and we now see the rook taken. If you carry on checking, you can block, check, king steps away, but the checks do run out. There's nothing here. You can't get round like this or anything, of course. There's just nothing. No check here. So let's run back. We didn't see queen e1 check. We saw the rook taken, knight d2, the baby girl's in the delivery suite. Queen c5 check, king e2, and resigns from Aravind. Finally.
Chess speaks for itself.
Because if you take the rook, well, the queen is made. And you lose the game here. 2 pawns down and a knight. If instead you step back and check like this, well, the king simply runs. And it's very well known that a queen can never keep checking a king when the knight is so close to it, and defending like this, the checks will always run out. I think I'm correct in saying, at least in practical chess, they always seem to run out when the knight's defending the king. If you take the rook, same problem, right? This is a lost endgame. So this is the final position, just a 55 move, Immortal, Queen Sacrifice Classic. Really, the chess was speaking for itself. It truly is today. We absolutely love it. Get yourself a t-shirt.
Chess spoke for itself.
Hope you enjoyed this video. Have a look at the video on screen if you want to see some more epic chess, and I hope to see you again soon. Cheers.